Hi everybody, welcome to another WeatherCast America Quickcast, and welcome to our new studio. Things are still getting set up, so we're still a work in progress. One of the things we have up and running now is our new green screen setup. We can bring you more exclusive weather content with some added visual presentations and also a little bit more interaction. So we're very excited to add that to our WeatherCast studio. Here's a look at the current weather across the United States this evening here into the overnight, June 5th into June 6th. We have some ongoing severe weather in the high plains. A couple severe thunderstorm warnings are considerable, as well as a tornado warning in extreme southeast Colorado. We also have some ongoing strong to severe storms on the East Coast. Otherwise, general shower and storm activity is possible through the overnight in the central U.S., into the mid-Mississippi Valley, and then also into the Northeast, from Northeast Pennsylvania all the way up into New England, even into Maine, still has a marginal risk. Quiet weather here on the West Coast. Beautiful evening also in the Northern Rockies, across the 49th parallel, and in the Great Lakes. It is a wonderful early June evening. Gulf Coast looking quiet right now. We did have a disturbance the past couple days. The National Hurricane Center was watching that disturbance. It kind of drifted off the coast of Florida and then onshore into the Carolinas. That has weakened, no longer a tropical threat. Here's a little closer look at our severe weather this evening. Still a couple areas of enhanced risk. One here into West Texas, into the southern parts of the Texas Panhandle, and just shy of the Red River. And then the other one stretches from southeast Colorado across the Oklahoma Panhandle and just to the north of Oklahoma City. Quiet right now in the OKC metro, but showers and storms here along the Kansas and Oklahoma border, all the way back into the Colorado and Oklahoma Panhandle border here. We did drop the tornado warning just a minute or two ago, so some good news there. Still a tornado possible tag. That storm is right at the triple point here between Colorado, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So we'll continue to watch those. Some general showers and storms across southern Kansas, approaching the Wichita metro. But you can see that slight risk. That expands out east into eastern Oklahoma, the areas like Tulsa, Bartlesville, and all the way almost to the Arkansas border over here. So we may get some strong storms. The models have this kind of clustering together. We'll see. It hasn't really shown that clustering yet. It's still May this evening. We'll see if that can form a mesoscale convective system. That's what some of the models indicate, working across the state of Oklahoma this evening. So we'll see about that one. And here's a little closer look at our northeast risk area. Still a slight risk again from central Pennsylvania all the way up into the southern tier of New York State. These storms are losing their punch though as we speak. Mostly just some general showers and maybe a rumble of thunder down here in Pennsylvania. We did have a severe thunderstorm warning when we were prepping for this video. That has been allowed to expire. We do have a special weather statement for this storm approaching the Hudson Valley. And here's a look at our risk area for Friday, June 6th, 2025. See, the Storm Prediction Center already has a very large slight risk. That's a level 2 out of 5, all the way from the high plains here along the front range of the Rockies again into eastern Colorado, much of Oklahoma, and also down into West Texas tomorrow. And then that slight risk stretches all the way across the Ozarks into the mid-Mississippi and Ohio valleys, especially tomorrow afternoon. Again, the models hint that the convection this evening and overnight is going to form a mesoscale convective system. If that does, that's going to work its way south and east across Oklahoma and into the Ozarks by the morning. And then we'll see redevelopment, especially on any outflow boundaries, as that mesoscale convective system weakens through the morning, but then new storms initiate here into the mid-Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley tomorrow afternoon. We have a large marginal risk that extends out from that slight risk area, including areas up into Ohio and all the way down here into central Georgia. So we'll see about that. General thunderstorms also here across Florida and the Gulf Coast, as well as up the East Coast. Again, mostly general thunderstorms, could be an isolated severe storm, but especially with beach season, you got to keep an eye on the skies because even a general thunderstorm brings a flooding and also a lightning threat. And we also see a slight risk here in New England, especially southern New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts, a little bit of Rhode Island, for some strong storms potentially tomorrow afternoon with some damaging wind as the primary threat there. Back here into the central states, the primary threat with that MCS convective system is going to be damaging winds, but also some large hail and a tornado too, not out of the question. And we'll take a look here at the categorical risks. Currently, the Storm Prediction Center has a 2% tornado risk, very large 2% risk that covers that area here in southeast Colorado, the Texas Panhandle, much of Oklahoma, into the overnight and into the morning tomorrow, and then into the Ozarks, southern Missouri, and also much of northern and central Arkansas, and then into the Ohio Valley by tomorrow afternoon. We do have to watch 2% risk. That's on the lower end of the Storm Prediction Center risk for tornadoes, but we have seen these 2% risks numerous times verify, including the other day. We had some 2% and 5% risks that well over verified. So keep an eye on the sky. Isolated tornado potential here, especially within that MCS complex. We could get some QLCS spin-ups if that does strengthen into a severe mesoscale convective system. And here's our larger wind risk for tomorrow. A 10% risk, no hatch risk right now, no hatch risk. We'll see that could be an addition here by the Storm Prediction Center in those overnight and early morning updates. But right now, it's a very large 10% risk here for the damaging winds, again, from the high plains here, eastern Colorado, the eastern parts of New Mexico, and also West Texas, all the way through Oklahoma, the Ozarks, and into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys. Again, you can also see damaging winds a threat tomorrow afternoon in New England, and you can see that 10% risk here in Massachusetts, as well as Connecticut, little southern parts of Vermont and New Hampshire. That's for isolated severe risk tomorrow afternoon. And there is a large hail risk tomorrow. You can see we do have a hatched hail risk. That is for areas here in the high plains, eastern Colorado, extreme southwestern Kansas, western Oklahoma, and then the Texas Panhandle. That is a hatched area. Wouldn't be surprised if we see any slight expansion to this tomorrow as well, especially maybe some expansion of the non-hatched area. But there is a possibility of some large hail with isolated storms tomorrow, as well as clusters of strong to severe storms developing here in the high plains. And there's that hail risk that extends out through Oklahoma, along the Red River, and into extreme western Arkansas. We also have some hail risk, minimal hail risk, but some isolated large hail events possible here, basically from around I-70 down into areas here around Texarkana, and then all the way over here into the Tennessee and middle Ohio Valley around Louisville. Small area here of some low-end hail risk also here in the Northeast tomorrow. So we'll continue to watch that area again. Isolated severe storms tomorrow afternoon is the primary threat in the Northeast. But we could see some larger hail out here, especially early when those storms are still discrete before they cluster together and maybe form another MCS complex by tomorrow evening. While they're more discrete supercellular characteristics, that's where they're going to have those supportive updrafts of some of that larger hail. And we're not done there. Going into Saturday, there's another large slight risk all the way here from the Red River Valley, across the Ozarks, across the mid-Mississippi Valley, and then into the southeast, all the way to the Atlantic coast here in the Carolinas on Saturday. We're going to see a few rounds of storms. There's actually a high pressure down here in Mexico and the Gulf Coast. Around that high pressure, especially on the northern side, that's where we focus some of that severe weather with essentially ridge riding complexes of thunderstorms. So a very broad, slight risk. We'll have to see as we get closer to the event. I wouldn't be surprised if some of this gets elevated to an enhanced risk, especially if we start to see the models really organizing a distinct area of severe weather. But anyone that has plans here over the weekend, definitely stay weather aware from really the Red River and even west of that into the high plains again, all the way through the Missouri Valley here, Kansas City, St. Louis, and into the Ohio Valley. You can see there is a broader marginal risk. We also have a little disturbance working through the northern plains. There is a marginal risk up here in the Dakotas, as well as parts of Minnesota on Saturday. And then there is a very wide area of general thunderstorms. And like I mentioned earlier, general thunderstorms, although they don't have those distinct severe characteristics, especially if you're outdoor activities or out on the water, you definitely need to stay weather aware. That lightning is especially a dangerous risk with any thunderstorm. So a large area of possible thunderstorms on Saturday with a more concentrated belt of severe activity with likely a couple different clusters of storms through the day here on Saturday. And here's a look at the temperatures and dew points here going into the weekend. These are for Saturday. You can see the dew points. It's going to be muggy here, especially from Texas and areas here in Oklahoma and Kansas, all the way to areas here in southern Iowa, and then across the southern Great Lakes. You can see these are 60s dew points and then 70s dew points across the Gulf Coast, all of Florida. Very humid, muggy, warm. It's going to feel like June, and it's going to feel like summer for some areas for really the first time. That humidity pushes all the way up here the East Coast into the Carolinas with some very muggy temperatures, and then also here even across the southern portions of Pennsylvania into areas around New York City. And here you can see those Saturday high temperatures, 90s, stretching here from Southern California all the way through the desert Southwest, much of Texas, and then across the Gulf Coast into Florida and the Carolinas. Those are 90s degree temperatures with 80s and upper 70s through the Mid-South. A beautiful temperature gradient here in the Great Lakes. 70s, maybe some 60s on the northern parts of the Great Lakes and right around the water. And then also same for the Northeast, 70s here in the Mid-Atlantic, then a little bit cooler the further north you go, 60s here up into New England. Your cool spots here really this weekend are up into the high terrain of the Rockies, into Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. But even here in the Central Valley of California, you can see some of those warmer temperatures stretching up the coast here into that Central Valley of California. So looks like a fairly typical June weekend is setting up, at least temperature-wise. Not a lot of extremes either way, and that kind of matches that severe weather outlook that we showed you earlier. A very zonal flow with that severe weather kind of stretching across this area right here. That's basically your temperature battleground here between some slightly cooler temperatures here into the Midwest versus that really muggy and hot temperatures here from basically the mid-Mississippi Valley south. So not a super large temperature gradient like we see in early springtime. That's why it's likely a marginal and slight risk versus those early spring temperatures where you really have some clash of cool air and hot air. And here's your precip through Saturday. You can see here basically aligning with a lot of that severe weather. Oklahoma is really the center point here. Could see 3.5 inches of rain, especially if those mesoscale convective systems train over those same areas. If the models are correct, and we do get one MCS tonight and into early Friday, and then we get another one Friday night into early Saturday, that could add up those rain totals, especially around Oklahoma City, up to Tulsa, and then into the Ozarks too. This is an area that's gotten a lot of rain recently here in eastern Oklahoma, southern Missouri, and into northern Arkansas. So we don't really need any more rain in this area, but another 1 to 2 isolated 3 inches of rain possible through the Ozarks. Then you can see here more rain also in the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, another area that's gotten a lot of rain this spring. So it's not going to take a lot of rain to really fill up those creeks and streams. So definitely turn around, don't drown. Flooding is definitely a dangerous severe weather, even though it doesn't get a lot of the news and the streams. Flooding definitely has a lot of property damage and also threat to life. So definitely take that seriously. Turn around, don't drown. You can see here the immediate Gulf Coast, pretty dry, especially the Texas Gulf Coast, Louisiana. If you're going out to Dauphin Island here, around the Mobile area or Orange Beach, a beautiful weekend here. Watch out for some rip currents though, but weather-wise, minimal chances of rain here along the Gulf Coast. Florida, it's been rainy, about a week or two ago, pretty rainy there. It looks like they get a little bit of a break in Florida. Still some possibility of some isolated storms, but not as concentrated as we had just a week or two ago. And then you can see some of that precip, and maybe an inch or two filtering here into North Georgia. Some higher rainfall totals possible here through the Appalachians, depending on how concentrated some of this weather is in the Northeast. Could be a little less, could be a little more, but in general, it's not going to be an all-day rain. Really, actually, in most of these areas, not an all-day rain, just kind of rounds of showers and storms working mostly from west to east across this region. You can also see the Great Lakes pretty good, but then as that other reinforcing disturbance works its way across the Dakotas and Minnesota and areas around Superior on Saturday, that's going to add maybe a half inch to an inch of rain for some of those areas here along the Canadian border. So here's a look at the HRRR model, and here we can see that cluster of storms showing here that MCS complex developing through the areas here in Oklahoma, Kansas, into the Ozarks. That'll make its way here with those isolated storms developing into that MCS complex here through areas like Tulsa and northwest Arkansas. Just that weekend before it reignites an area of showers and thunderstorms, possibly severe here in the Ohio and mid-Mississippi valleys. And then we can see as that model runs further, we can see that next round of the MCS complex. Here's that MCS coming through areas here, Springfield, Joplin, northwest Arkansas, maybe getting into central Arkansas before it weakens, that reignition. And then here's those new storms forming tomorrow afternoon with some possibly large hail. And then those work east as well through the late period on Friday. And then into Saturday, the model doesn't quite go out through Saturday yet, but we can see kind of the hints of it here. There's those new storms firing again, working east as they cluster together. Again, kind of just rinse and repeat here, working into the mid-Mississippi Valley, working all the way down into central Georgia, and then some storms refire with the heating of the day. And then likely another round of storms will develop back in the western part of that risk area and then work east as well. So very active pattern here, especially from basically the southern high plains here, the front range of the Rockies. Very active pattern here the next few days and over the weekend here through the Red River Valley, through the Ozarks, and then into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys, and then also again stretching into especially areas in the Carolinas, Georgia, all the way up into areas here, especially in the mid-Atlantic. You can also see this model also shows the next couple days. It does show that marginal risk area up here on Saturday. We can watch that little disturbance kind of working its way here through southern Canada, and that gets into the Dakotas by Saturday with potentially here a line of severe weather, a line of strong to severe storms. This model doesn't, well, we're kind of right on the edge of this model run here, but it doesn't show a super concentrated area of severe weather, but possibly at least some isolated severe storms within this cluster of storms up here along the Canadian border. A very active pattern. Stay tuned. We'll get you updates. Again, we're still finishing up our renovation here in the WeatherCast studio, so I'm kind of working a little bare bones right now. But we're also at least trying to test out some of these new features that we have going here on WeatherCast America. And then as we get here over the next couple days, we're going to get back into more of that routine broadcast with the severe weather coverage that you've been used to here on WeatherCast America, as well as more regular updates and those WeatherCast America quickcast forecasts. So very excited to continue working here, and thank you to all the new followers. Definitely like and subscribe, share with friends and family, especially if you know anyone in the risk areas here over the weekend. Give them a heads up, let them know, don't cancel your outdoor plans, but just make sure you have an eye to the sky and have multiple ways to get warnings. And we will see you here and continue to track all these severe weather here on WeatherCast America.